Wicked Spursy. We got Mike. We got Steve, and that's really all you need for a good time,
That
right?
almost rhymed.
Yeah, yeah. I get that way sometimes, where my inner poet just comes out, but it was a coincidence. Let's be real. I did not intend for any of that to happen. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Steve. Had a little time to decompress after the shit show of a refereeing job on Saturday night.
Oh God, what a nightmare!
Yeah, you guys, anybody in Wicked Spursy land that wants to hear about the travesty that was the Vermont Green Boston Bolts match on Saturday night, you can head over to United in Green on Thursday, United in Green podcast on YouTube and any of your favorite podcast platforms. But we're not here to talk about that. Maybe later. Who knows? Um, so since we have last met, um, went down to Connecticut last Thursday and picked up a brand new puppy, Golden Doodle. His name is Archie.
Yes, that is a great name.
For a midfielder, yeah, for sure, and for a puppy.
Will the puppy be forced to play center back, or?
He may be forced to live outside for a minute or two. He yesterday he pooped on the floor. This evening he peed on the floor.
Yeah, that
Um,
tracks.
we've been doing a really good job too, and he had a whole day, a couple hours at a time by himself, and didn't pee in his crate. Yeah, no accidents until this afternoon, this evening, right before I got on today. But he's cute as hell. I've been showing pictures to everybody, and he's getting a bit bitey, you know.
I do know, actually. Well,
Yeah,
not for this animal in particular, but I've got my own little bite machine.
yeah. So, but that's fine. It's all been going great. The crate training's been great. The potty training's been mostly great. And he's starting to understand his name. He's attached to my wife, which is great because I thought he was going to be my dog. But yeah. Also, I messed up shaving my beard, so my weight loss is actually showing through with my little stupid looking gizzard.
Well, that's a good thing, though, right?
Yeah, sure,
In
sure.
its
Yeah, so I shaved
entirety,
the beard off. It was an accident.
yeah.
Anyway,
We just won't shave ever again.
no, never again. Never ever again. But other than that, things have been pretty damn good, man. I'm not gonna lie. Just won a
I'm
big
glad to hear
contract
it.
today at the bargaining table, so that was fun.
Nice, yeah. Stick it to the man.
Stick it to the man.
Make him give you what you're worth.
You know what, Steve? You know what's also amazing? We're back into sweatshirt weather.
Oh yeah, I suppose. It's this is the nice thing about Vermont. I think is even when you do get some of these hot days, the nights do tend to cool off enough where you can throw on a sweatshirt.
Yeah. Not yet, not quite yet. I mean, it's not like one of those times where you can put the sweatshirts away, but you can still throw that. You can throw that sweatshirt on in the evenings. It is currently what are we gonna say? 61 degrees Fahrenheit. Uh, so that's pretty cold. That's pretty
That's
cold for
nice
June.
though. That's like real nice, good weather.
Yeah, for sure. Um, but you expect that in May, maybe not, maybe not in the middle of June.
I did
That'll,
forget that we were in June. I completely just it didn't occur to me. It's been June for 9 days now, but for some
9
reason,
times.
yeah, I'm still in the May mindset, I guess. But maybe that's just because there really hasn't been a whole lot going on. I mean, especially in Spurs land.
Well,
I can't think of any major events that might have happened or are in the process of happening. It just all seems like a big blur.
not the sacking of a manager or anything of that nature.
A manager who, by the way, won the first piece of silverware in 17 years.
Thank you very much.
But at the same time, I gotta say, because it sounds like we're jumping right into it. I gotta say, I honestly understand the point that the club made in their decision. This, and it's something that I've sort of criticized myself a couple of times. When you are a club that seeks to be as big as Spurs, you need to be able to compete on multiple fronts, and if you can't do that, it kind of does dampen results a bit, right? And yeah, we won the cup, and I was thrilled for it, and I could have seen a scenario in which Ange stayed on for that third season. But I also understand, having seen United with Ten Hag and that whole situation. Like, I would rather cut the losses now, um, and go in fresh with a new guy at the helm than have him get sacked in October and then we're doing the same shit United did, right? Like, I don't know that we really have a good answer to whether it was the right decision. Um, but I understand it, from a big picture, take a step back sort of way. I understand why they did it. It does hurt a bit. He did kind of earn some time, I guess, for that win. But I'm also not as devastated, I think, as some other individuals, just because 17th lowest points total. I mean, that's just not something you want to hang your hat on. Yeah, we got the cup, but we should have been able, in my mind, to have the cup and not finish 17th.
Yeah, I kind of agree, Steve. So obviously, the the great thing about Tottenham and football in general is is the romanticism behind it, right? The 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 romanticism behind winning a trophy, being successful on um, not just in your league but in Europe, and the romantic notion that you win the big games. Um, the team is rewarded, the club is rewarded, the fans are rewarded through that, and the manager is rewarded. Um, there's a lot of other things that go into it, but um, the love affair that European football has with winning trophies on sometimes on multiple fronts. Um, it can drive the fan base, but I think the feeling that you get for that first couple of weeks after winning a trophy, and this is my first trophy with the club, and a lot of other fans have experienced league cups and whatnot, and even an FA Cup. Some fans, I I hadn't experienced a trophy with this club yet. And of course, for at least that week, it was very Angian, very Angian. But then you have to start thinking about being a little more pragmatic, right? Um, and that's not a dig on Angie either. But you have to think about, okay, would it have been acceptable if we didn't win the trophy? No. Um, how did Ange make it as far as he did post, you know, post December, January, when we had the major injuries, right? Like, he was given a little bit of leeway because of the injuries, right? And then we kept on falling further and further down the table, even as players were coming back, and even we said here is like, oh, it's gonna all get better when these all these players are back, and it just never really got better. We find out later on that obviously they're prioritizing the cup run at that point because they knew they were pretty much out of the league, right? So they're prioritizing a trophy, so and not the league. The thing is that you want to behave like a big club, You have to you have to be able to function on multiple fronts. And the fact that he wasn't canned before the final um, might have been due to Levy maybe being a little gun shy um, after what he did with Mourinho. Um, so, in the end, yeah, it's really, really sad. Um, Guy's gonna be a legend forever at the club. Some people still think he deserves a statue. It is what it is. But what he did do for the club is he started to build a culture around the club, right? Um, he started to make the building blocks of what could be a consistent winner, right? So brought a lot of good players in, brought a lot of young players in, used a lot of those young players to sometimes to great effect. It was just he was never able to make the team do what he wanted to until he had to be tactically flexible in Europe and win, right? Because he knew his job was on the line, and maybe and maybe he thought that winning that trophy would bring him a little bit of goodwill, right? Um, but in the end, finishing 17th is just unacceptable.
Yeah, the other thing that I kind of want to touch on is this whole notion of, oh, well, there's going to be a dressing room revolt. The players are going to be up in arms. Because he was a very beloved figure by all accounts. And the one comment that I have for that is, if the players really cared about him that much, they should have shown up and performed in the league as well. End of story. If you show up and perform only in the Europa League and then just put in piss poor performances, when it's a league fixture, what did you think is going to happen? Levy can't sack the entire, squad. He can sack one manager. Um, so, if you liked him, maybe show up more than once a week. That's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but that seems to me to be the big takeaway, because you would see some of these guys perform in Europe and then they would show up like, whatever. I'm not going to put that much effort in the league. We got another Europa Cup game coming up in 2 weeks. I can't risk anything.
All
And if
right,
that's
yeah,
your mindset, then yeah, of course your manager is going to get sacked. That's just the state of it. And I, the injuries, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because yeah, I get it. We had lots of injuries. We were making those excuses until we didn't, and they still didn't show up to perform. So that excuse kind of just doesn't hold any water for me. And then Mike, I have to give credit to you for this one. The whole play style. If what you're doing is causing significant injuries to the squad, maybe tweak things a little bit so that you don't have to worry about that as much. We saw that there was a possibility. The tactics were definitely adjusted for Europe. Why not do that for every other game, every other fixture, while people were coming back from injury, instead of forcing everybody to keep going until you've got Decky sidelined and you've got all these other guys who are Madison at the end, who ended up injured. Like,
we had
there's
no
so
mid
many
we
different
had no
things.
midfield in the end.
Absolutely.
No creative midfielders. We did have Bentancur, who was injured twice this season. We had Basuma, who was injured and out with yellow cards or whatever he was doing this season. We had no creative midfield presence left after we got our defensive players back, right? Like Solanke was injured a couple of different times in the season. Like it was his tactics, and he admitted, and I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to piss on the dude's grave, right? He did what he felt was necessary, and he stuck to his guns playing the way he was going to play in the league. And what is Levy gonna do? And we'll get into that in a second. But like, what is Levy gonna do when Ange comes in for his end of the year interview and he says, "Okay, so for next season, what do you see?" And Ange says, "I'm going to play the way I play, mate." I mean, is that has he shown that that's a successful tactic? I mean, Tottenham Hotspur in Ange's first season was successful mostly off the heels of those first 10 games, right?
Absolutely.
Like that drove a lot of the because we ended piss poor. Um, in the second season wasn't any better. He admitted that like his way of training, his way of playing injures people. People blow out hamstrings. So what was the indication that for next year that anything was going to change? It wasn't, and I feel bad for him because he showed that he could be tactically flexible. He showed that he could be pragmatic and smart and play to the competition in Europe, and which I felt was like that's a good indicator of what he could do. But he didn't want to do that in the league. He didn't want to sacrifice what got him to where he was. Right. I think Ange is going to catch on somewhere, and I think he's going to be highly successful at this next club too that he's at. Um, and and it's just sad that we couldn't continue to celebrate a manager that brought this team its first European trophy in over 40 years. In its first trophy in over what almost 20 years, right? 18 years. So yeah, it sucks. It really does. Um, the players bought in. He was great, a great man motivator. He was great at. I'm talking about him like the guy's dead. He's not dead, but I mean, for
He's
Tottenham
dead to
Hotspur,
us now.
he did build a culture, a culture where it wasn't 11 guys, 11 different cabs, right? Like they used to say that
I
about the Boston Red Sox. They'd say
Yeah.
24 players, 24 cabs, right? These guys went out and especially in Europe played for each other, played for the club, played for the badge, played for the fans. And for these fans that are screaming about Levy and the decision that he made, um, some of these guys are the same fans who were jeering Ange, for his league play. Some of the away fans, you know, hissing at him and whistling at him and booing him and making comments toward him. And some of these same guys are the ones who are now yelling about Levy firing him after he won a trophy. I just didn't see, for me, I just didn't see any proof that next year it would improve. And if we went into next year, we get into October and it's proving to not be working. What are we going to do? We're going to be really without some options for coaching. I think
It's a
Levy had to pull
gamble,
it. He had
right?
to pull
Like
the trigger. He let
that's
the he let the trophy high die down a little bit. He let Ange go on vacation. He came back and sacked him. I think Ange knew he was going to get sacked anyway, and I think his comments about the third season were maybe to buy him a little bit of time, a little bit of grace, and it just didn't work.
yeah, but there's two things about that just kind of stand out, right? Like, yeah, people are going to blame Levy, but they'll only blame him up until the next guy comes in and does a good job. If our next manager, who we'll discuss a little bit soon, comes in, hits the ground with some really strong results, maybe we get another cup win, building on the success of Ange, all of a sudden he looks like a genius, right? But the fact of the matter is, if you look at things from a logical perspective instead of an emotional one. Yes, we have the glory. That's the emotional response. We want that. We definitely want that. But from a logistics standpoint, you look at the points per game, you look at what we've given up to get there, and that to me is not sustainable. It does not indicate that the feat of winning Europa League can be repeated, especially considering we're going into the Champions League now, where it's going to be more difficult, and we struggled at times in Europe. So, yeah, you could take the gamble that maybe he would get you another trophy or get some results. But the performances, the injuries, um, everything that got us to Europe, you have to consider that too and recognize that if you want long-term success and you want to be sustainable in an elite division at the top, you can't gamble like that. It's just not good. So again, I get it, but I also don't necessarily feel bad for Ange, and I'll tell you why. Because people think, oh, he's never going to get a job at a top club again. He's done. Like that's his career. This dude won a trophy with Spurs. Antonio Conte couldn't do that. Jose Mourinho couldn't do that. There are plenty of, quote unquote, world class managers that have come in to try and get something for Spurs. Ange did what none of them could. And to me, that you put that on your resume, and it's like, I'm the guy who did the impossible. And there are, I guarantee, clubs out there who are going to take the gamble on him. Maybe it's not a Premier League club. Maybe he's going to end up moving to a different league. But I do think that there is going to be a strong club in for him at some point. Maybe not this summer, but surely they'll be looking to him real soon. I don't think he's going to be short of options. He's a great guy. He's a good motivator. The players love him. He gets along well. I don't think he's going to have any problems with his career, and I'm happy for him. I'm genuinely happy that he got the win that he so desperately wanted. He's got, the coldest soccer quote of all time with his "I always win" in my second season. That's a guy who can hold his head high and know that he accomplished such an incredible feat with Spurs of all clubs. He'll be fine.
Here, here. Thank you, Ange.
Absolutely. Now, Mike, I do want to address this next part before we get to our favorite segments. So let's be frank and talk about Frank. Not Lampard. Let's be clear. We're not going Frank Lampard, but
Franck, right? Thomas
all
Franck.
all odds are looking like we will be getting Thomas Frank from Brentford in the coming day or two. Maybe it seems like it's really close, and that they're just working out the finer details at this point. And I gotta say, I honestly think this is probably one of the best decisions that Levy could have made off of the back of Ange. Um, but I've talked for a little while. So, Mike, why don't you give us your thoughts on our potential? This isn't official just yet, but it seems highly likely we will be getting Frank.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, Thomas Franck. We've seen him in the league for a while now. He seems to be working with very little at Brentford. They don't have what's known as like a proper youth setup, or so they do the recruiting elsewhere. Um, you know, and he brought them up through the championship and into the Premier League, and every single year, despite losing players, um, he seems to be getting better and better. Like they're building on they're building toward a situation at Brentford where they're like on the edge of European football, uh, which is pretty insane to kind of, if you kind of think about it, and all credit to Brentford for keeping him on so long and giving him the time to do what he's doing. But at the same time, they've also been selling players out from underneath them. Um, not we can mention straight off the top is Ivan Tony, right? Like so, and it looks like Mbumo too. Like so, I mean, Thomas Frank, we've seen him. We he's now kind of a known quantity, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that when they were promoted to the Premier League, Dave said on this podcast, someday this guy is going to be a Tottenham manager, and he'd love to see it.
And so it looks like he's
And
going to be right.
I gave Dave the crystal clear just opportunity to come on here today and just gloat and puff out his chest. And he said, "Nope, boys, I'm going to go back into the shadows." He's like Kaiser Soze. Poof. And like that, he's gone.
You know what? I'm gonna say that he is just that humble of a guy. He could come in, he could gloat and say, "I told you so," but instead, he's just gonna downplay it. Say, "You know what? Just the fact that you all know is enough. It doesn't need to be said."
Right. So we know the way he plays. We don't have to do much research on this guy. We know who he is. He looks just like Willem Dafoe, the Green Goblin. He's going to be the Lily White Goblin now, but he's a very pragmatic. Seems to be tactically flexible. There's that word again, pragmatic. He doesn't he's not like Ange where he's going to rigidly stick to like one system. He kind of tailors his approach based on what opponent they're playing, whether it's Man City, whether it's Ipswich, whether it's fucking Sheffield United.
It just occurred to me, Kyle McLaughlin.
Still, I don't see it, Steve.
Absolutely. Look, I'll send a picture. You'll see it, but I could see him, Thomas Frank, coming in and taking a bite out of the classic cheese from the Spurs cheese room. Oh, this is some damn good cheese.
Anyway, yeah. So basically, like I was saying, he does have like a clear identity. Like he's pragmatic, he's smart, his players, like his teams are well organized. He works well with like that new kind of data driven style of football. That's kind of pervasive throughout. It's not just in in European football, but it's in all sports now. Everything's data driven, which is why the Boston Red Sox fucking suck right now. But it's now starting to work in soccer. He primarily uses like a 3-5-2, 4-3-3, depending on the context of the game. When he runs a back three or back five, even it's that's used against stronger attacking teams, for kind of defensive stability and counterattacking. We saw a lot of times this year they just fucking hoofed the ball and let Mbumo run underneath it, right? But like I was saying, like his style, like they're super compact. Their shape is like very disciplined. All right, let me look at this. Jesus Christ. He just said hairstyle.
That's they got the same face too. Well, okay, Frank is a little bit more aged than that picture, but still, there's a resemblance there.
So the one thing that I really like about Thomas Frank, because I have been doing my research. We didn't have to, but one thing I really like
because I didn't
is that the center backs and the midfielders are it's drilled into their head to maintain their shape and cover that space. And that's one thing that was missing in Ange ball over the past season and a half. When we're leaving wide open spaces in the midfield for teams to run through, for teams to pass through. Um, the other big thing that Brentford has been really, really good at, fucking attacking set pieces, defending set pieces. His teams are always very good with the set piece efficiency. Um, and I think that's something that this club has been lacking. This team has been lacking. Um, he doesn't use like pressing at all costs. It's a situational pressing. It's kind of like the way that my son's team plays. Like he's taught to not necessarily press high and hard the entire game. It's it's not a super overly aggressive press, but it's used in certain situations in certain zones. Uh, so they're not going to run like a Liverpool or Man City, like a gegen press or like a full on Pep Guardiola style press. Um, he's also a nerd, so we talked about the analytics and stuff. Um, so it's gonna be it's really gonna be imperative to bring in players that are good at doing certain things that can link up with the players that are super skilled at everything, right?
You know,
So that
if
means bringing in one guy maybe who's good at set pieces but not good at anything else. You know,
So the one thing, if you haven't seen it, and this goes out to all of you as well, it's an incredible 15-minute video. He's got a masterclass video on YouTube where he breaks down the Brentford 2 Arsenal 0 game from 2021, I believe. And he talks about the teams, the formation, the tactics, where he was going, and yeah, he's absolutely a nerd. Um, but just listening to it, like this is somebody who clearly does his homework. He understands what he's going to be up against, and he tries his hardest to make sure that his game plan is going to be effective. And yeah, you know, you look at Brentford's results in the league since promotion, and they're not the most inspiring, right? You know, they're mid-table at best. But you also
they're
have to
still on the
remember,
edge of Europe though. I mean, it's
and they don't spend hardly anything. But you listen to this guy talk about his tactics, and it's just such an incredible listen. Now, like I said, just look it up on YouTube. It's like a 15-minute long video, and it'll give you a sense of how this man thinks and why. Honestly, you should be excited. Hopefully, we get official confirmation soon. But I would absolutely love to have a tactician like that. But the other thing that needs to be said about Thomas Frank is he is an empathetic manager. So all those player revolts that people think are going to come because Ange got sacked, this is the type of guy you want coming in to, you know, follow. He's the guy who's going to like have that conversation, you know, one on one with each player. Tell me how you're feeling. Let me know how I can help. You know, this is what I see for you in my plans. Like let's approach this um, you know, very emotionally, because it is an emotional situation, right? Like you do want to say, oh well, they're professionals, they need to just shut up and deal with it, you know, this is the way it works. But there's emotion tied to it, especially when you won a major European trophy with a guy. You need that emotional connection, and I think that's a piece of Thomas Frank that maybe gets overlooked a little bit, but I think it's an absolutely crucial thing to have in the dressing room.
exactly right, Steve. Exactly right. He's like he's well known for his positive personality, strong leadership. And when you have a coach like that, it helps to build like a really cohesive team culture, you know, like you said, valuing the unity and team mentality um over anything. And when you have that, that can be a deciding factor on whether you're going to continue to build and move forward or whether you're going to fall apart. And we've talked about it for years about how these guys, some of the dead weight we had to get rid of, right?
And
Maybe an
arguably still
empathetic
need to get
coach,
rid of.
would have um we wouldn't have been put in a situation where we had to get rid of dead weight, right? We didn't have an empathetic coach. We had Jose Mourinho, right?
What, he doesn't have empathy?
We had Antonio Conte, who would rather kill players.
And I'm convinced at some point in his career probably has.
Well, yeah, to win the Scudetto again this year. I mean, I don't know. So he's good at getting the most out of even some of the lesser known talents on the team. I just I love I love the fact that he can come in and build on the culture the change that was started by Big Ange. Um and I think that like you said, that player revolt is not coming. Um specifically because these guys I think are professionals, and but it's not because they're professionals and they should shut up and just do it. It's because they are professionals and they understand the world that they live in. Um, and that they're not necessarily going to follow Ange into the depths of whatever and just not show up anymore. They're getting paid. They understand how the game works. They understand how like ruthless it can be for coaches, right? Um, And if anything, some of these players should feel bad for not performing for Ange, right?
That's exactly it.
But maybe they're also following his instruction, which is don't don't kill yourself to jump up 2 to 3 positions because you're not making Europe. We'll get Europe next year through different means.
You,
So who knows what happened there? We weren't on the inside of that, so we don't know shit.
I
Just
will say though, every time I hear this talk about the players revolting, all I can picture is just like a perfect recreation of History of the World Part One. You got like Paratici or somebody going up to Daniel Levy's office, like, "Sir, the players are revolting." He's like, "Yeah, they stink." But I don't know this. And again, we're talking about Franck as if he's signed on the dotted line. There is a big question mark as to whether that actually gets across the line.
it's a
But for
$10 million release.
Yeah, but that's including, I think, his staff as well. So he would be coming in with a crew as opposed to Ange, who just came in by himself and then assembled a crew. But even though it's not official yet, I mean, for me, the biggest question mark for the whole thing is, hey, Mike, what you drinking?
You got me.
I was hoping I would.
You did. You actually got me. All right, Steve. Well, I love it when you ask that question. What do we have today?
The Zero Gravity Vermont Green IPA.
No. I drink.
It's good, by the way, for those of you who are curious.
It is good. It is an original beer.
Not
Go
just
back
a
to Wisconsin.
recon.
We're
going back to Wisconsin,
where the cheese is not as good as Vermont's, even though they're the cheese people.
Yeah, and our maple syrup is better than theirs too.
That's also true. That's proven fact. Actually, it's better than anywhere. This is Eagle Park Brewing. This is called Blues Breaker. So let's break our blues.
Not to be confused with the Blues Brothers, right?
Yes.
Does anybody who listens to this get that reference?
I doubt it. Who knows?
That's too bad. Surely there's got to be somebody out there who's like, "Oh, Blues Brothers, I know that. That makes sense to me." Well, and I have to say, you're old. I'm sorry, but you are.
Me?
No, whoever understands the Blues Brothers reference.
Oh, yeah. So this beer is called Blues Breaker. It's a Belgian style white ale, or a wit, if you will.
I love a good wit.
Dutch for white beer. So these are going to be super pale in color. They're going to be either hazy or cloudy, generally due to the yeast that's suspended in there. Wheat proteins should give us a nice, dense white head. We'll see. These beers are often citrusy. They sometimes paired with an orange.
I actually like that can art.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really, really cool. There it is. Blues Breaker by Eagle Park Brewing in Wisconsin. So these beers are generally citrusy, like I said. Oranges are usually paired with them. They usually are. They have they're spicy. And they're sometimes brewed with like coriander. Um, they're going to be what's called bready. Um, and it's from like the unmalted wheat that they use. Um, I really think that this beer is going to probably be super sweet, and it is going to be spicy. I can smell it already.
I'm excited for you to try this. It sounds refreshing, honestly.
Typically they are so like your big time Belgian white beers that you're going to find in America is like your Blue Moon.
I do like a good Blue Moon every once in a. God, what's a unique period that I could use to describe that yearning?
Once in
It'll
a blue
come to
moon.
me.
In a
Oh,
blue
yeah.
moon.
I want a blue moon once in a blue moon. Yeah, that sounds about right. What are we thinking?
That's a good beer. I like Belgian whites. Um, Allagash makes a really good white as well.
They do. They're out of Maine, right?
They're out of Portland, Maine. Yeah.
Yeah.
This beer is really good. It is spicy. You do get that coriander. Not so much of the orange, but like I think I don't like fruit in my beer, but if you put an orange with it, probably be pretty good. Super light body, super high carbonation, which gives it that refreshing kind of nature. Um, People like to be refreshed in the summertime, Steve.
So do I.
You're also a person. Super dry.
That's
Super
not what
dry.
I've heard.
This beer comes in at what do we got? 5.3% alcohol, which is probably right around. I would say 5 is generally. Do we want to pair it with a food?
With a
Chicken,
food.
maybe
Oh,
some
man. Look,
nice lobster,
since
some
you've brought up
shellfish.
chicken, I just have to give a shout out to that one food cart outside of the Green Game. I think it was on a week ago, last Monday. I want to say it was like Jalib's Giblets or something.
Oh, they have the pterodactyl wing.
Probably. I just got their chicken tenders and they were incredible. They were
Ah,
so good.
yeah. They have this thing. They have this thing that's like it's a thigh and leg, just not separated, and just amazing. It's a Somali food truck, so it's like
Yeah,
Somali style. It's Somali style fried chicken, and holy Moses, yeah.
I would take a Belgian white with that for sure.
Oh, you know what else? Here's another typical Belgian white, Hogarden. If you've never had Hogarden, and it's
I
not
don't
like
think
you
I'm
think,
familiar
Steve.
with that. Yeah, my mind went to a completely different place.
Yeah, I figured it would have.
It's like, huh, I could use one of those right about now. Wonder where I
So,
can find one.
Steve, do you have your guests lined up?
Yes, I do. I am going to here, I'll drop it in the chat so you can see it as well. And oh, nope, I gotta actually hit the buttons there. All right. Ready when you are.
Ready? 1,
Yep.
2, 3, 3.7.
Oh, so close. So close. I
Let's
hit
see
him
what
with
you
the
guessed.
3.9.
3.9.
Yep. I thought I was going to be clever too, like 1, 2, 3.9. But no, you went 3.7, which still, I mean, to me, that's a pretty good beer.
Yeah, man, it's tasty. It's tasty. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, and I don't even have to caution you for any shenanigans because it was pretty close.
Yep,
Don't
no
worry,
shenanigans.
I brought my cards to the recording just in case. Can't, if
Did
Mike
you have
gets
to
out of
hand out any
control.
cards this weekend?
I did not hand out, and I did 11 games, not a single card left my pocket. Although I probably could have given out 2. I had one instance where a player, one of the teams, the coaches subbed 2 of the players out while my back was turned. And by the letter of the law, I should have given both of them yellows, one for leaving without permission and one for coming in without permission. But I just told the kid, I told him, at the next stoppage, like, I don't care what your coach says. You wait for me to tell you it's okay. But I mean, they were all good games. The tournament was just like just for fun. We weren't keeping score or anything. So I think it was super enjoyable. No bad parents. I did have 2 injuries yesterday, which were not really that fun to deal with, but both of the kiddos were okay, so not much there. One of them took it was a goalie. They took a shot to the nose, and they were just bleeding all over the place. The other one got raked down the shin, which is why you should always wear shin guards.
Was he not wearing shin guards?
She was, but they were like the super thin ones that don't really look like they do anything, and they don't. Turns out, so
Well, yeah,
invest in some
the kids all love the
quality.
mini shin guards these days, and
Yeah, I don't care if it makes your legs look bulky or if no, you need that, especially with some of the cleats. Granted, we're not looking at metal studs at U14, but
no, but like I can tell you that they still hurt. My kid has black and blues all the time, on his legs, and I asked him if he wanted the mini shin guards, and he said no, they're not going to protect my shins. He understands, like, especially being a center forward, that and a kid who's fast, he's getting his legs fucking kicked at constantly, like, kicking his ankles in and kicking out his shins all the time, and he understands, like, the value of a good shin guard. So we got him we got him the shin guards with the sleeves.
oh yeah,
They're built right into the sleeve.
I got a pair like that for my kiddo.
Yeah, look, we got him for him a few years ago, and he didn't like him. He didn't like him, but he's ready to try him out again. So I got him 3.2 inch and a 5.5 inch. So he'll figure out which works best for him. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so that's been, hey Mike, we got a 3.7 on your not Blues Brothers, but Blues, who cares?
breaker.
It's Blues Brothers. The Blues Brothers beer out of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yep, that's 3.7. And yeah, looking ahead, I mean, obviously the season's over. There's not much. We've got a transfer window coming, and hopefully, by the time this gets put out into the world, we might even have an official confirmation on a manager. That would be ideal. But what are you thinking? You got to remember, right? Like, it's not just a potential new manager. It's not just a new transfer window. We have a new CEO. We've had not just Ange turning over, but we've had a board member leave. One more, I think, retired. We've had the new CEO come in. Scott Munn was sacked. So there's a lot of transitioning happening within the club, and there are
Paratici's back.
suggestions. Yep, there's also suggestions that we could be looking at an influx of cash. I've seen that rumor going around. I don't necessarily believe it,
Yeah, we
but
were told that a few years ago too, and it never fucking happened.
Yeah, it's. I think we're entering like the Wild West territory, Mike. Anything could happen. So, as opposed to looking ahead, what in your mind would be a successful, let's call it next month, right? So from now, 2 weeks into the transfer window, the official transfer window, not this weird mini window. What would make you feel comfortable and confident in the club going forward?
Put money into getting Etze. Um, we've been on his trail for a couple of years now. Put the money into getting Etze. Um, um, Go and gazump Man City or Man United for Mbumo. Uh, I think our defense is shaping up to look pretty good. I would like another center back possibly. Um, I want to continue to see what we bring with some of these returning loanees. Are we gonna they're gonna keep ending up loaned out year after year after year? Or are we gonna give them an actual chance with the club? Um, Talking about guys like Donley, right? Um, in We can get into Sonny a bit later, but I think like I want to see Tell brought back. I'd like to see maybe to do another loan. I would I would I would I would like that, but they have dropped their price on Tell. I think Tell is an incredible talent, and I think under somebody like Thomas Frank, I think he would thrive. Um, I think Sonny's leadership has been great and will continue to be great. But I also think that like maybe it might be time for him to move on. I don't know. I'm either way. Like he got his trophy with Spurs. He did what he was supposed to. Um, I want to see some players brought in. Um, and I'm not talking about Sane, even though Sane would probably. I think Sane would be what he would be a free transfer. So
I just,
what are you doing there, right? I
yeah,
mean,
I don't know. To me, that's one that doesn't make sense. I've heard that he's kind of disruptive in the dressing room, and that's not a presence that I necessarily want around Spurs. Go let him disrupt somebody else.
okay, okay. I mean, there's all of the stupid rumors that are out there. We probably don't have to worry about Johnny Cardoso anymore. Um,
Did you see the goal he gave up? Yeah, I think I'm good without him. We've had enough
yeah,
Spursy moments. I don't need any more.
yeah. I mean, that kind of shit can happen, I guess. But no, I just want to see some really good recruiting. I want to see us figure out a way to get some English talent in, and I'm not trying to be uh, anti-European or anti-South American. I'm just saying we need some English talent in so that we can properly properly fill out our Champions League roster. Because this is something that we've been kicking down the road for years, right? And in order to be able to compete in Europe this year, we're going to need to be on our toes with that one, especially when you don't get the chance to drop down to Europa League, if you don't make it through the league stage, whatever they're calling it now. So yeah, I want good recruitment. I want solid recruitment. I think we have a host of good young players, and we've already taken care of that. Now we can go after the big name players. And
Yeah, that makes
if
sense.
Romero stays, Romero stays. If not, sell him for a lot of fucking money.
And then reinvest that money in
As
some
a
solid options. I mean, look, I'm glad we exercised the extension on Big Daddy Davies, but we do need somebody a little bit more stable, I think, for the long term.
yeah, Mark
Although,
Gahey would be nice.
yeah, I will say it was really cool to see Vuskovic get his debut, his senior international debut today. That's going to be a fun one to watch. And honestly, for me, I would love to see. Hopefully it's Frank. but him to come in and evaluate the squad. I think one of my favorite things when we do go through these manager transitions is to see like which of the younger talents they're going to want to stick around versus which, okay, you can go on loan. Like you're not in my plans. Because to me, it's those younger kids who are that much more eager to impress and think, okay, new guy, I've got my shot. You know, he doesn't have an established group that he trusts yet, and I love to get that sort of training ground digest. You know, who looks like they're performing well, who's showing up, who's doing the work. Um, and we've got a number of young guys who either they've been on loan, like Jamie Donnelly, um, who could potentially come in and impress. And Frank's one of those guys who I think and that's the other piece that I really appreciate about him. He's a no ego sort of guy. You play well, you play. You don't play well, you don't play.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, actually.
Yeah, so I think that if I'm a young player, like a Vuskovic coming in, or Yang, or Donley, or any of them, I'm looking at this as an opportunity to impress and potentially play some, first team football with the senior squad. But I also think that if he is going to send any of these guys out on loan, he's going to be very clear and concise with, look, this is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to work on. We're going to be keeping in touch. Like, let's make sure that we're improving you the best we can. Um,
Yeah.
he doesn't come across as I'm going to banish you and, we'll never see you again. So I'm excited to see what he does with some of the young talent that we have. And of course, I do want to see some transfers.
Excellent.
But we're just about at time for some closing thoughts. So, Mike, would you like to give us any closing thoughts?
Yeah, Steve, my closing thoughts are these. It's going to be exciting times this summer for Tottenham Hotspur. We have in August coming up the Super Cup. We'll see how we're going to be able to compete with PSG. Hopefully, we get some players in to be able to do that. That'll be a fun match. We win that. There's going to be some legendary talk. Um, but I'm just mostly looking forward to seeing what happens with this new manager, seeing how they come in, and change the squad, but build upon what Ange has started here. So, um, just want to get into this summer, drink some beer, have some barbecue, watch some of this ITK roll in, and see if any of it pans out for us.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. My closing thoughts, Mike. I'm very excited this week for two reasons. Uh, June 11th, June 14th, we've got the Vermont Green women's team playing two exhibition matches this season under the tutelage of Sam Mewis, and I'm very excited to be at both of those matches. I can't wait. This is one of those things that makes me love this organization as a whole, because they do see the importance of broadening the women's game as well as bringing the men's game to Vermont. And it's not just an accessory to the men's team. They're looking to make it its own individual entity, and they're working to get some traction there. So it's exciting. It's a great time to be a local soccer fan, and I know that there are going to be some young ladies out there who are going to just love being able to see women playing professionally in our own backyard. Um, I know because I refed a bunch of them over the weekend, and they were pretty excited.
I'm really excited to see what it looked like. Training. Um, got to see a little bit of training. Looked like Liv White was had her hamstring or groin taped up. Um, so that was a little alarming to see. She was wrapped in an ace bandage, but still looking good out there. She was hustling, moving around fine. She was our captain last year. I think she continues to be. But I'm really excited to see what Neve Renwick can bring. Um, the way that she played last year, you know, um, she is a right winger. She's quick. She's dribbly. She's good on the ball. She's gonna beat anyone one on one. And you know, she had 10 goals in her league last year. Ohio Valley Conference Player of the Year. And uh, she's gonna get better and better every single year. And she's only like 19 years old, so gonna be 20 years old this year. And just very excited to watch this team and see what Sam can do with less than a week's preparation against Flower City, who is a proven commodity in pre-professional women's football in this
Yeah, you know
country.
what I have to say to that, Mike? I think my beer says it all. Dead
Dead
flowers.
flowers.
We got this. Go green. But yeah, and for those of you who maybe that you hear us talking about the green all the time, and you're like, well, we can't get to Vermont to check them out. We stream, and I gotta say the live streams that they have out there are like they're quality considering the level that we perform at. I can't think of another USL2 team that, well, granted, I don't know all of them, but I certainly haven't seen any in our division that have the same sort of video production setup that we do.
None in our division, but probably Annapolis and like Ballard. Annapolis gets 13,000 fans a game.
Yeah.
You know,
So look, you guys can catch it online. They stream every single home game. I bet you'll be able to watch the women if you want. You can even just throw it up as in the background. And the other thing that I really appreciate is you can watch full match replays too on
yep.
YouTube. So I've done that a couple of times when I've missed a game. I've been able to just pull it up and watch the entire thing.
And that's the great thing that Vermont Green does for the community and the fans is that they do all of this. They put in a lot of effort into production value. They hire good production teams for their matches. They use the local TV station, and they provide all of this to the community and the fans for free. There's no subscription that you have to go through. You can just get it all for free. And Vermont Green does that because they want to grow the sport and they want to grow their fan base as well. So they're an amazing club, amazing group of owners that I can confidently call friends, and I can't say enough about this club, and the way that it's run. Um,
Oh,
even though they get
absolutely.
fucked over on Saturday night.
Yeah. I It's going to be a good week. Again, June 11th, June 14th, we got two women's exhibitions. Check them out. And with that, I think I'm going to just tidy things up with a nice, good old fashioned coins, 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 coins.
And
Don't be an asshole. And how about you, Mike? What would you leave us with?
guys, I just want to make sure that everybody goes out there and whatever you're doing in your life, just be safe and protect your mental health.
And
Tottenham Hotspur action. It's fantastic.